Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Instant Insight podcast. I'm your host, Martina Raveni, and today I'm joined by our strategic intelligence analyst, David Bicknell, to discuss about smart cities. Let's start off with a bit of context. By 2050, nearly 70% of the world's population will live in cities, compared to about 50% today. This is increased challenges because increased urbanization, the climate change, and of course the infrastructure need to cope with this, and this is a problem. And these challenges are driving the growing development of smart cities, of which today David will discuss about. So let's kick off this episode. Hi, David, how are you?
I'm well, Martina. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks so much for being here. That's such an interesting topic. I'm curious to start off. The first question I want to ask you, if you could you give us a brief introduction about what is a smart city and what do we mean with it?
Well, a smart city is a city that uses connected sensors to enhance the quality and performance of urban services such as energy, transport, and utilities to make the city function more efficiently. Smart cities rely on platforms that extend beyond traditional e-governance to bring together disparate smart city use cases. They're a way of merging different projects to create one overarching platform for delivering local public services. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, cities cover just 2% of the Earth's surface, but are responsible for over 50% of solid waste and emit up to 60% of greenhouse gases. The UN Environment Programme suggests cities are a key contributor to climate change, as urban activities are major sources of greenhouse gas emissions. Smart cities, however, can help combat climate change by integrating technologies such as the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and digital twins to create more sustainable energy systems and to reduce waste.
Thank you. And just to follow up on this, do you have a couple of smart cities example that are at the forefront of this theme?
Well, there are many smart cities and they all have different characteristics. So cities evolve over time, adopting different layers of infrastructure. I guess you might say the early adopters have provided places to live and work and large developments such as airports that promote international connections and tourists. In many cities, built infrastructure is really now indivisible from digital infrastructure as they adopt ever smarter technologies. So amongst these earliest urban adopters were primarily capital or major cities. So I would include in there London, Paris, New York, Boston, Copenhagen, Oslo, Amsterdam, Seoul, Singapore, Helsinki, Reykjavik, Vienna, and Tokyo. And these cities have gradually increased their use of sensors and technologies, as I mentioned, such as IoT, AI, and digital twins. Since 1998, when the International Governmental Panel on Climate Change was established to formalize the scientific understanding and provide recommendations to governments, cities have become increasingly climate aware. Cities firmly focused on environmental sustainability include Reykjavik, which wants to be 100% carbon neutral by 2040, and Copenhagen and Vienna also have policies aimed at sustainable mobility and energy transition.
You've mentioned a lot of cities, so that's great not to hear just one or two examples, but it's a well-developed thematic. Moving far away from the globe, I've heard that China is very well positioned in the smart cities ranking. Can you confirm that? And if so, why that's the case and what's its story?
Yes, it's absolutely the case. And while urban technology adoption worldwide has primarily been down to the individual cities themselves, in China, the development of smart cities has been part of a national program since 2012. Rather than procuring from various international providers, China's smart cities typically showcase solutions from the country's main technology players. They would be, for example, Alibaba, Baidu, Huawei, and Tencent. The development of 290 smart city pilots in China reflects years of investment by the Chinese government in smart cities, including Shenzhen, Hangzhou, Chengdu, Chongqing, Beijing, and Hong Kong. A strong focus of these cities is surveillance, and the cities incorporate extensive monitoring systems and other technologies to achieve this. China has also made this technology available to other cities that want to follow its security-focused approach. The Digital Silk Road, as it's known, provides advanced IT infrastructure from Chinese suppliers to countries that are part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is a global connectivity strategy designed to engage China with the global south. Examples of cities that have adopted Chinese technology in this way include Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan, and Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.
Wow, that's a lot. And you stressed the 290 smart city pilots. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And
That's a program, not pilot almost.
yeah, indeed. And yeah, so China's has a lot of government support. But since I'm new to the topic, the first smart city I'm thinking is Neom. Do you know something about that? I'm sure, but let us know.
Well, these are the new cities of the Middle East, and there aren't as many as there are elsewhere, but they are unique in their size and in their look and what they seek to achieve. So it's very different from the early adopters and those the Chinese cities I mentioned above. The smart cities of the Middle East are really bespoke futuristic projects. For example, the line in Saudi Arabia is notable for its scale. The linear settlement, in which the buildings are arranged in a long line, is intended to be 170 kilometers long, 500 meters tall, and 200 meters wide, aiming to house 9 million people. And it hopes to make all essential services available within a 5-minute walk, with the development powered by 100% renewable energy. Yes, you mentioned it. The line really forms part of NEOM, which is a special economic zone in Saudi Arabia that aims to become a global hub for innovation and sustainability. Its name is a portmanteau of the Greek word neo, meaning new, and the Arabic word mustaqbal, meaning future. The project, originally budgeted at, yes, $500 billion, is part of a broader strategy to reduce the Saudi economy's reliance on oil. And as well as the line, NEOM will encompass several other regions and developments, including Oxagon, a floating industrial complex.
I have a question for you because we know that the Saudi leadership is now, especially throughout last year, substantially scaling back parts of the plan. I think they cite something like financial pressures, construction delays, and lower oil revenues. So the focus now is shifting towards becoming more an AI hub. I wanted to understand what do you think about this and what do you think this change might reveal about the limits of building smart cities of the future in general, or at least in this region?
Yeah, I think there's been talk about the sort of downscaling and redesigning being underway. I think it was probably expected, given that a review of the project was widely considered to be on the cards. I think this is something of an outlier in terms of smart cities generally, because NEOM is on such a huge scale and is being built really from scratch, whereas most smart cities are about making existing cities smarter. So if you like, continuous improvement on existing cities rather than building new ones, like a futuristic linear city 170 kilometers long. I do think that the interest in the line has been a positive one, in that the scale plan for the line really puts smart cities on the map in the Middle East. The new version of NEOM will apparently be far smaller, perhaps a sign that the original scheme was highly ambitious. But perhaps really there's nothing wrong with ambition if you can eventually recognize that reaching for the stars might be reaching a little bit too far.
What about Europe? Do you have any other examples?
Well, the first one I came about, and this was in the first Smart Cities report, and I think I've done 3 of them. And the one that I remember showcasing in that report was Barcelona. And one of the projects that puts Barcelona among the world's leading smart cities was this Vincles, as it's known, or the Bonds project, which was launched in 2012 by Barcelona Council within the framework of Intelligent Innovation Initiatives. And it's quite a sad story, really, but it's an exemplar for how smart cities work. So that project won the Bloomberg Mayor Challenge Prize for the best intelligent cities project in the world in 2014. It wasn't based on savings, nor on sensors, nor technological platforms. It was based around people, and it was aimed at elderly people who live alone and employed information and communication technologies to make sure that the isolated elderly people with fewer means are never abandoned. And the project followed a tragedy in the city of Reus, 70 miles south of Barcelona, when an elderly woman died when she accidentally set fire to her home. The woman, who couldn't afford to pay her gas bill, cooked and kept warm with candles. The inevitable happened. Her home burnt down and killed the woman. So the object of the scheme was to make the lives of elderly people more dignified and safe, using data and technology to ensure that the events of Reus do not repeat themselves. The project created algorithms that cross-reference the data of people living at risk, combining it with data from sensors installed in the homes of those with a medical history.
Interesting also how different smart cities became smart for different reasons, from government support, or for the story from Spain, or the new future of in the Middle East. So thank you so much for these great examples. I'm sure the reader can read more of them in detail in your Smart Cities report. You also recently wrote an analyst briefing on the interplay between these smart cities and climate change. We know it's a big issue. And I wanted to ask you, how does the growth of these smart cities ties to climate change risks?
Well, yes, certainly. I mean, cities are at the heart of the struggle against climate change. Improved coordination of planning, new public-private partnerships, and tools like digital twins were key mentions last year at the COP conference. So, in the run-up to that event last June in London, representatives from the world's smartest cities convened at what they called a Cities Climate Action Summit as part of London Climate Action Week. The meetings provided the opportunity for policymakers, technologists, and financiers to learn what is working and what is not working in cities ahead of the climate change conference, COP30, which was held in Brazil from the 10th of November to the 21st of November last year. The London event was one of a number of meetings that are helping to drive change in cities as they battle against the effects of climate change. And make no mistake, it is cities that are on the front line. By 2050, as we mentioned, it is projected that 68% of the world's population will live in urban areas, a demographic development that has implications for public policy making, resilience planning, technology adoption, and financial backing. So that event that I mentioned featured discussions on scaling up climate action from the local level and city governance in relation to climate change, notable around the ideas of adaptation and resilience. So as the impacts of climate change become more pronounced, cities and local governments have become critical players in the global effort to reduce emissions, build resilience, and deliver sustainable development. Emma Howard-Boyd, who was chair of the London Climate Resilience Review, gave one of the opening talks at that event, and she discussed how climate change can drive innovation, encourage citizen engagement, and tailor solutions to the specific needs of communities. Think back to those really awful pictures of the floods in Valencia, when over 220 people lost their lives. So that's the horribly real impact of climate change.
And instead of thinking back, looking ahead to the new year, I would like to discuss with you some of the key themes in smart cities in 2026. So, David, I remember you mentioned at the beginning that integrating the technologies in these cities can actually help fighting climate change. I'm curious about which of these tech are and how can they actually do that.
So I remember in the last report we did, we had a table with a number of sort of different technologies, and in many cases, most of the cities in that chart, if not all, had were adopting things like AI, digital twins, 5G.
IoT, I guess, as
Yeah,
well.
and IoT, yeah, indeed, yeah. AI adoption for smart cities is really going to be as the central nervous system, I think, that transforms passive infrastructure into a proactive, adaptive, and efficient ecosystem that makes life better for its citizens. And I regard digital twins, which is a term few people know. They're all about simulation and having a single source of truth. They're one of tech's best kept secrets, and they too will be increasingly used by smart cities. So Dublin City Council is using digital twin technology to enhance city management and operational efficiency. Dublin's Smart City Digital Twin project transforms 3D city models into dynamic, data-rich virtual replicas using IoT, AI, and geospatial platforms, for example, like Bentley Systems iTwin. And they use that to enhance urban planning, for emergency response, for sustainability, and for citizen engagement. I can see that model being adopted widely by multiple cities in 2026.
I hadn't initially thought about digital twins, but that makes really sense, actually.
Yes, it is. I mean, a lot of cities are now using them. They're using more sophisticated ones. They're not using sort of, one digital twin. They're using many digital twins. And digital twins themselves are a major tool in understanding climate change and will continue to be so.
Thank you very much, David, for your insights. They were really informative and really interesting.
Thank you, Martin.
Thanks all for listening, and from us in Strategic Intelligence, see you next time.